Hello everyone, I'm Beastly Eel, and in today's video we're going to be talking about the 2-episode series finale of Agatha All Along. If you have not seen these 2 episodes, I highly recommend you pausing this video and waiting to watch those episodes, then come back to hear what I have to say. Or, if you don't care and you haven't seen it, or you've seen it and you're curious at what others think about it, great, welcome. The big thing here is the second to last episode starts off right where the last one began, which was Agatha leaving the trial as far away as possible, and we have Jennifer trying to break down the door to try to get Lilia out of there. And of course, Billy is with her. While they're dealing with that, we have Agatha on the outside dealing with Rio, who is basically stating like, "Hey, you've done your part in the sense of better than I was expecting. A lot of death has happened." And of course, Agatha's like, "Of course, why wouldn't I have done such a thing?" And so we have that going on, and basically she's telling Agatha, she's telling Agatha like, "Hey, I now know what's going on. You didn't tell me that that was the son of the Scarlet Witch." And she's like, "Well, I thought you were a big girl and could handle it yourself and figure it out on your own." She goes, "Well, then I'm taking him." And Agatha's like, "Then take him." Um, and that's when Agatha realizes she can't take him. That if she does, he'll just be reincarnated somewhere else and she'll have to hunt him down once again. So Agatha agrees to helping her get him to give up and go with her, in the agreement that if she does that, she gets to live longer and never has to see Rio ever again. And she's like, you're going to die eventually. And she goes, "Yes, I will. But you're not going to be the one to bring me. I'll figure out my own way of getting to the other side." And so they agree. On the inside, we have Jen and Billy talking about how Lillian wanted to do it, wanted to sacrifice herself to protect everyone. We also get confirmation that the Seven are dead by Rio. But anyway, um, oh, I forgot. We also get the beginning of this. We have Alice being brought to the afterlife, who's bargaining with death, and Death's like, "You have no choice. We gotta go." And so she leaves with her. So anyway, yeah. So then Rio leaves Agatha. The other two go to find Agatha. Um, Jen and him begin to have a conversation. He insults Agatha. That's when she comes out, and they're like, "Okay, we're gonna have to finish the last trial." So the three of them begin to walk, and they trip over. Agatha trips over her shoes, and it turns out the road is a circle, and they went in a full circle. And that's when the three of them are starting to freak out, being like, "What the hell's going on? Like, we didn't finish it, but we're at the end, and we don't have what we want." So they begin to yell and scream at each other, and that's when Billy decides, because he's getting frustrated, he's going to put his shoes on out of disrespect to the road. He puts his shoes on, he gets teleported somewhere else. He is in a body bag where he has to break out, and that's when Agatha and Jen join him. They have their effects, or partially, and so they begin to talk to each other. They realize that this must be the final trial, and it's the Earth trial. So Agatha's trying to explain to Jen, like, well, Jen, there's like a lot of overlap as a potions master, and Jen's like, yeah, kind of. And so she's realizing that there's grow lights above her head, so it must have to do with something about growing life, which would make sense since it's the Earth sign, right? They begin to talk more, and Jen finds out that Agatha was the one that sealed her powers away. And that's when she rips out a chunk of Agatha's hair, wraps it around her wrists, meaning Agatha's wrists, and begins to chant that, you have no power over me, basically trying to break the seal. She's able to do so and begins to break down crying, feeling her powers for the first time in 100 years. We also find out that Agatha did it because she was making money off of it, didn't know exactly who it was, but also with that, she it was either that or get burned, and she's always been one for herself. So Jen gets her powers and then she disappears. And Billy's like, "Well, what happened? What happened? Why is this happening? Like, why'd she go away? Where'd she go?" And Agatha's like, "She got what she wanted from the road, so the road let her go." And so that's when she decides she's going to help Billy find his brother Tommy. So she begins to help him with a spell, and she's able to put Tommy's soul into another body of a boy who was being tricked and basically drowned to death in a pool. And so they put Tommy in that body. When that happens, Billy disappears and the ground cracks. Agatha then begins to realize she's got to figure out what she needs to do. She looks at her son's the locket with the hair in it and sees that there's a dandelion in it, or dandelion seed. She plants it into the crack and it begins to grow. And she realizes she's beaten the challenge or beaten the trial, in her opinion. So she's then all of a sudden the room starts to collapse with dirt piling into it, and she begins to try to break down the door that was sealed to let her out. She does so. She gets out. She's in her backyard where Rio is on, or Death, I should say, is on the top of the roof, basically explaining, oh, I should have made, busting her chops about fighting on the road. And Agatha then gets attacked by Rio, who wants her dead. Um, that's when Wiccan now has come. Obviously, it's Billy, but he's in his Wiccan outfit, and he knocks Death right out of the area. He then tells Agatha, like, hey, don't take all of it. Gives her a huge chunk of his power. She stops before she drains him completely, and they go to fight Death. Death knocks out Wiccan pretty easily. Agatha is holding her own. However, she gets knocked back after a while. And she's like, this is inevitable. She's going to want one of us. And so he volunteers himself. And then Agatha goes, well, he volunteered himself. So you can take him. I'm going to leave. I did my part. Goodbye. As she's walking away, Wiccan uses his telepathic abilities to basically state, hey, is this, is this how your son died? And that's when she stops, goes over to Rio, gives her a kiss, and takes the death. Um, so she decides to take one for Billy. She dies. She goes into falls to the ground, turns into a pile of mushrooms and grass, which is interesting. And then Death tells Wiccan in his mind, "You can leave now. I've given you a pass." So he goes home. His family freaks out about what's been going on. He then goes into his room after a shower and looks around his room and realizes, wait a minute, something's not right. I saw all this stuff when we were dealing with the road, and alluding to the fact that he created the road, which he did. Anyway, so we then hear Agatha's voice from behind and a boo sound, and then he freaks out, and that's the end of the episode. So the next episode begins with Agatha's past. So we're in the 1700s, early 1700s. Agatha gives birth in 1702 to a boy, but before she gives birth, Rio comes and is ready to take the child already. And Agatha's like, no, I need more time. And she goes, fine, I'll give you time, but I'll be back. Like, you're not going to be able to keep him forever. So as time goes on, Agatha gives birth. She begins to start draining and killing witches all around. 6 years later, the boy is kind of helping her bring witches in, and she drains them. He's looking very sickly, but still alive. So it's just a weird combination, right? Which makes me think that he had some sort of illness that he shouldn't have lived, but Rio let him, or Death let him live. So I'm very curious on that piece, but it was not very clear, I'll say that. So they begin to, she's getting her son to help her kill witches. He's not a huge fan of it. At one point, he stops. There was one random day he decides not to do it, and so they lay in the woods together. And that's when Death comes back, takes her son, and brings him over the bridge to the afterlife. Agatha wakes up, freaks out, realizing that she didn't have as much time as she thought, buries her son, and during this whole time, they begin to sing a song that's very similar to the tune of The Witch's Road, which before he died turned into the Witch's Road song. So I just wanted to make that clear too. So she begins to sing it when she puts the grave together, and a witch comes by and stating, "Hey, you know how to get to the witch's road?" And Agatha's like, "Of course, but we need a coven." And so for decades, she's been luring witches to combine together out of hiding to go to the witch's road, which does not exist, for them to then get mad at her and they attack her and she drains them of their powers. And she does this consistently, including the time that we see her with um, in the present, where that was the reason why she gathered them all together, was to try to get them to attack her so she could take their powers and take them as her own. However, the difference here was this time the road appeared and Billy was there, and Billy was the one that created it, and she realized that after. So we go back to the present where Billy turns around and sees a ghostly Agatha who is white-haired, purple dressed, very much I would say the closest to her comic book accurate costume, in my opinion, and look just in general. And the two of them begin to talk, and she basically explains like, "Hey, like you made the road," and he's like, "I killed all those people." She goes, "Realistically, you saved a life, because I was gonna kill them all in the basement day one. Let's be honest." And he was like, "Well," and then that's when we see Jen crawl out of the ground and fly away with her powers. So he then um, realizes that Agatha's not going to leave him alone. So he goes back to Agatha's house and creates a circle, a penance star, sorry, and then lights a bunch of candles and tries to banish Agatha. Agatha starts to freak out, doesn't want that to happen. She eventually gets him to stop, and she just wanted a piece of her son because the reason why she was afraid to die or afraid to go into the afterlife was because she was afraid of what her son would think of her. And that's when Billy's like, "I think he'd forgive you no matter what." And she's like, "That's kind of why I'm hanging around with you because I figured you would say something like that." Um, so they agree to work together, which is hilarious. Um, both of which state, he's like, "Oh, it's like a coven," and she's like, "Well, I've killed all my coven members," and he's like, "So have I," and she's like, "That's a good point." So they begin to work together as what I'm assuming is going to be instructor and instructee. Um, apprentice and master, I would say, is better suited. Agatha's also learned how to touch things as a ghost now, which will be interesting to see how that works in the future because she now has her pendant on her and she'll keep it on her. And so the two of them are going to be looking for Tommy together. And that's how the series ends. And there are no after credit scenes. So one major thing here, um, Billy is just like his mother, created an entire world. Granted, he created it because Agatha made it up, which is hilarious to me. Because the Witch's Road never existed to begin with until he made it, which is so weird to think about. But yes, it was a very good series. Super excited where we're going to see them again. The rumor is there's going to be a speed show, which is supposed to be it's supposed to be Billy's brother. Which I'll be very interested to see if they do that, and if so, obviously these two have to be in it in some way, or at least at the very end. So I'm very curious on that. We're also going to get a bunch of other shows have been announced that are definitely going to be happening and coming up soon. We have Daredevil Born Again. We have What If Season 3. We have Ironheart. We have Eyes of Wakanda, Marvel Zombies, and Wonder Man, which is an interesting one too. So I'm very curious to see where all these are going to go for the future. But for now, I have to say this series was actually, in my opinion, very good. Um, I thought it was just well done in general. Um, but I know a lot of people didn't feel the same way as me, and that's fine. But let me know what you guys thought about this series in the comments down below. Did you like it? Did you not? And why? And as always, if you like the content you see, please make sure to like and subscribe down below. Other than that, this is going to be Beastly Eel signing out. Have a great night. Bye bye.